Imagine a world so distant from the sun that sunlight itself takes more than 5 hours to arrive. A place where temperatures plunge to nearly minus 230 degrees Celsius, so cold that if you carried a glass of water there, it wouldn't just freeze, it would harden into something closer to stone almost instantly. A place where time moves on a scale so vast that one full year lasts longer than the lifetimes of many humans. This world exists at the edge of our solar system, drifting silently in the darkness far beyond the orbit of Neptune. On this distant frontier lies a mysterious celestial body that once held the title of the ninth planet in our cosmic neighborhood. Today, that title is gone, replaced by a new classification that sparked debate across the scientific world. Yet despite losing its planetary status, this icy world remains one of the most fascinating places humanity has ever discovered. This world is Pluto. For decades, Pluto occupied a special place in our understanding of the solar system. When children learned the order of the planets, Pluto always came last, the small, distant world marking the outer boundary of our planetary family. It was mysterious, cold, and impossibly far away, yet it carried a certain charm simply because of its remoteness. But Pluto's story begins long before the debate about whether it deserved to be called a planet. The year was 1930. In the clear desert skies of Arizona, a young astronomer named Clyde Tombaugh was working long nights at the Lowell Observatory. He was only 23 years old, tasked with a challenging mission that required patience and extraordinary attention to detail. His job was to photograph the night sky repeatedly and search for something unusual hidden among the countless stars. The method he used was simple in theory, but incredibly demanding in practice. Astronomers would take photographs of the same region of the sky on different nights. Then they would compare those photographs carefully, looking for anything that appeared to move. Stars, which are unimaginably distant, remain fixed in position from our perspective. But objects within our solar system, such as planets or asteroids, slowly shift their positions relative to the background stars. If a tiny speck of light moved between images, it might reveal the presence of something entirely new. Night after night, Tombaugh examined photographic plates, flipping between them in a device that allowed astronomers to detect subtle motion. Most of the time, nothing changed, but on February 18, 1930, something extraordinary happened. Tombaugh noticed a small point of light that had shifted position. It was faint, barely noticeable, yet it was clearly moving against the background of distant stars. More importantly, it appeared far beyond the orbit of Neptune, the outermost known planet at the time. Further observations confirmed the discovery. The scientific community realized that a new member of the solar system had been found. On March 13, 1930, the discovery was officially announced to the world. Humanity had discovered a new planet. But this mysterious world still needed a name. Surprisingly, that name came from an unlikely source, an 11-year-old girl in England named Venetia Burney. After hearing about the discovery, she suggested naming the new planet after Pluto, the Roman god of the underworld. The name seemed perfect. Pluto lived in darkness, hidden far from the warmth of the sun, just like the newly discovered planet at the edge of the solar system. The suggestion was passed along to astronomers and quickly gained support. Soon, the name Pluto was officially adopted, and the distant world became the ninth planet of the solar system. For 76 years, Pluto held that title. Generations of students memorized its place in the planetary lineup. Yet, as technology advanced and astronomers learned more about the outer solar system, questions began to emerge. By the late 20th century, scientists had discovered many objects beyond Neptune in a region known as the Kuiper Belt, a vast ring of icy bodies left over from the formation of the solar system. Some of these objects were surprisingly large, and one discovery in particular shook the astronomical community. In 2005, astronomers found an object called Eris. It was roughly the same size as Pluto, possibly even larger. Suddenly, a dilemma appeared. If Pluto was considered a planet, then objects like Eris might also deserve that title. And if scientists continued discovering more similar bodies, the number of planets could grow rapidly. the scientific community needed a clear definition. In 2006, astronomers from around the world gathered in Prague for a meeting of the International Astronomical Union, the organization responsible for naming and classifying celestial objects. After long discussions, they agreed on 3 criteria that an object must satisfy to be considered a planet. First, it must orbit the Sun. Second, it must have enough gravity to pull itself into a roughly spherical shape. Third, and most importantly, it must clear its orbital neighborhood, meaning it dominates the space around its orbit and is not surrounded by many other objects of similar size. Pluto met the first 2 requirements without question. It orbits the Sun, and its gravity has shaped it into a sphere. But the third condition created a problem. Pluto resides in the Kuiper Belt, a region filled with countless icy bodies. It has not cleared its orbital path of neighboring objects. Because of this, astronomers concluded that Pluto did not meet the full definition of a planet. And so, in one of the most controversial decisions in modern astronomy, Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet. The announcement sparked intense debate. Many scientists disagreed with the decision, arguing that Pluto still deserved its planetary status. Even today, the discussion continues, and some researchers believe the definition of a planet should be reconsidered. Yet, whether planet or dwarf planet, Pluto remains an extraordinary world. One of the first surprising facts about Pluto is its size. Despite once being considered a planet, Pluto is actually smaller than Earth's moon. Its diameter measures about 2,374 kilometers, while the moon spans about 3,475 kilometers. In other words, our moon is significantly larger than Pluto. If Pluto were placed over the United States, it would barely stretch across the country. It is truly a small world on a cosmic scale. But Pluto possesses features that make it far more interesting than scientists once imagined.
In 2015, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft finally gave humanity its first close look at Pluto. The spacecraft had been launched nearly a decade earlier and traveled billions of kilometers through the solar system before reaching its destination. When the first high-resolution images arrived, scientists were stunned. Instead of a dull, frozen rock, Pluto revealed an incredibly complex landscape. One feature immediately captured the world's attention, a vast region shaped like a heart. This bright area became known as Tombaugh Regio, named in honor of Clyde Tombaugh, the astronomer who discovered Pluto decades earlier. The heart-shaped region is composed largely of frozen nitrogen and spans an enormous area, large enough to fit multiple U.S. states within its boundaries. Even more astonishing were the mountains. Towering peaks rise several kilometers above Pluto's surface, formed from water ice that is as hard as rock in the extreme cold. Between these mountains flow massive glaciers, not made of water, but of frozen nitrogen slowly creeping across the surface like rivers of ice. These landscapes revealed something unexpected. Pluto is not a dead world. Instead, it appears to be geologically active, with surfaces that continue to change over time. Some regions show signs of slow movement, almost like the drifting of glaciers on Earth. Scientists even suspect the presence of cryovolcanoes, volcanoes that erupt not with molten rock, but with icy slush composed of water, ammonia, and methane. Another remarkable discovery involves Pluto's atmosphere. Despite its small size, Pluto has a thin atmosphere primarily made of nitrogen, with traces of methane and carbon monoxide. But this atmosphere behaves in a strange and dynamic way. As Pluto moves closer to the Sun in its elongated orbit, surface ice begins to warm slightly and evaporate into gas, forming an atmosphere around the planet. When Pluto travels farther away, those gases freeze again and fall back onto the surface as frost. It's almost as if Pluto is breathing. One of the most intriguing questions scientists continue to explore is whether Pluto could host any form of life. At first glance, the answer seems obvious. The surface environment is unimaginably hostile. Temperatures are far below freezing, sunlight is extremely weak, and the atmosphere is far too thin to support Earth-like life. Yet there is a possibility hidden beneath the frozen surface. Some researchers believe Pluto might contain a subsurface ocean buried deep under its icy crust. The idea may sound impossible for such a cold world, but the physics makes it plausible. Inside Pluto's rocky core, radioactive elements slowly decay, releasing heat. Over billions of years, that heat could melt some of the ice above it, forming pockets of liquid water trapped beneath the surface. If such an ocean exists, it raises an extraordinary possibility. On Earth, life thrives even in environments where sunlight never reaches. Deep beneath the ocean, near hydrothermal vents, entire ecosystems survive using chemical energy rather than sunlight. If similar conditions exist beneath Pluto's crust, tiny microbial life forms might theoretically survive there. Of course, this remains speculation for now. Proving such a hypothesis would require future missions capable of studying Pluto in far greater detail. And that leads to one final challenge: distance. Pluto lies so far away that even the fastest spacecraft humanity has ever built required 9.5 years just to pass by it once. The New Horizons mission didn't even stop in orbit. It simply flew past the planet at high speed, collecting as much data as possible before continuing deeper into the Kuiper Belt. Sending humans there with current technology would be almost unimaginable. Yet science moves forward quickly. The technologies we consider impossible today may become routine within the next century. Perhaps one day a future generation will send explorers to Pluto. Maybe they will stand on that distant frozen surface, gazing across nitrogen glaciers and towering ice mountains beneath a dim, distant sun. Maybe they will look toward the horizon and see the faint glow of Pluto's largest moon, Charon, hanging enormous in the sky. And maybe they will finally answer the question that still lingers today, whether life could exist even in the most distant corners of our solar system. Pluto reminds us of something profound about science and exploration. The universe is far stranger, far more complex, and far more beautiful than we often imagine. Every discovery reveals new mysteries waiting just beyond the horizon, and perhaps that is the most exciting truth of all. But what do you think? Do you believe Pluto should still be considered a planet? And if scientists someday confirm an underground ocean there, could it change the way we think about life in the solar system? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoy exploring the mysteries of space and the universe, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more incredible journeys into the unknown.